Here now is Corey Lewandowski, former Trump campaign manager, Chirs Hahn, former aide to Senator Chuck Schumer, and host of the Aggressive Progressive podcast. All right, Corey, this keeps getting, it just goes. It gets worse and worse for poor old Joe. What do you think about this testimony this week about the 2015 warnings that were disregarded?
Well, the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State, George Kent, made this alarm to the Vice President's office, what we're now hearing he's testified to this week. And the Vice President's office responded, Joe Biden's office said, we're too busy to deal with this. This is not a priority that our son, his son, is selling influence to the Biden-Obama administration. That's really what this is about. And so when it's the Democrats doing this, they turn a blind eye to it. And this is the first we're hearing about this, but we haven't seen any of the mainstream media covering this because this is an attack on Joe Biden. The liberal left is rallying around Joe Biden. And the truth is, we know what Hunter Biden has now said. If his father gets elected president, he won't join any foreign boards. He won't try and influence his father. That's like me saying, if I'm in the NBA, I'll stop slam dunking on top of people. It's just not going to happen. We know that. So these are just false promises.
All right. Well, Chris, your response here. There was some coverage of this George Kent testimony. CNN covered the fact that he claims that Rudy was pushing for prosecutor Shokin's visa. He might have been involved in that. So they picked something that they thought would be negative to the president about some of the testimony this week, but this wasn't really covered anywhere else. Is it at all important to you?
Yeah, I think it's very important to me. I think that the Bidens mishandled this. And I'm for any direct member of a family of a president or a vice president having no foreign entanglements whatsoever. In fact, I hope Corey would join with me right now to encourage Congress to pass a law tomorrow that would ban presidents and their immediate family and vice presidents and their immediate family from having any foreign investments overseas that are not managed by a blind trust. I think we could all agree that we should get away from this because even the appearance of a conflict is a bad thing when you're a president or a vice president in this country. Unfortunately, the president right now has conflicts of interest all over the world, including 100 investments in Turkey that should be in a blind trust and not influencing his decision-making as president of the United States.
I think we remember that there was a lot of stuff said in recent days about the Obama-Biden years. It's worth revisiting. Let's watch.
For 8 years, there wasn't one single hint of a scandal or a lie.
We're probably the first administration in modern history that hasn't had a major scandal in the White House.
The thing I'm proudest of is not one single whisper of scandal.
Not one.
Not one single whisper.
I love the applause. It's reflexive. It's not just what we laid out about Hunter Biden. Today we learned that the State Department has finally finished its internal investigation. I don't know why it took so long into Hillary Clinton's email scandal, guys. The State Department said it found a total of 588 violations involving information then or now deemed to be classified, but could not assign fault in 497 cases. Do the math, 90 or so. So, Chris, still want to say they're scandal-free? I mean, that's not even mentioning Fast and Furious, all the other issues that came out with IRS and tailing reporters, surveilling reporters, et cetera.
I think as scandals go, this is a minor scandal. But again, I would push that we have very strict controls over diplomatic communication, including not using WhatsApp when we're talking with the leader of Saudi Arabia and we're the president's son-in-law, which is happening on a regular basis in this country, and there's no diplomatic record of what he is saying and doing. So, yes, if we're going to talk about Hillary's emails, let's talk about this president and using his private lawyer as a back channel in a very sensitive area of the world. So we've got
Corey,
a lot of things that we should be working on here going
Corey,
forward.
Hold on. Corey, Rudy is under the spotlight. There's no doubt about it. He's on the griddle right now for a whole bunch of reasons. And the spotlight's on him. Is it unwise for the president to have his personal attorney working with the State Department on issues that are I think, extremely legitimate, but is it better to go through government attorneys, government lawyers, and normal government processes, at least not to ruffle feathers and normal lines of communication?
Laura, we have seen what the deep state, your previous section on this just talked about the deep state. By going through members of the State Department, the president runs the risk. The president runs the risk of seeing what's already happened. Personal phone calls between the leader of the free world and other countries are being leaked all the time.
Hold on, Chris.
That's what we're talking about, Chris. And what we're saying is the members of the State Department, some of the holdovers from the previous administration are still there. Look, they treat us like babies. They treat us like babies because they say the president can't. The president can't have these conversations. Then he has a conversation with the leader of the free. Chris, he has a conversation with a foreign leader, and the conversations are leaked by members of the National Security Council.
Chris,
and the State Department.
Hold on, guys, hold on. Friday night, hold on. This is not Friday Night Fight. This is Friday Night Ingram Angle. Chris, you do see the point, though, right? When you have people who are working as career diplomats, career civil servants, they are supposed to work for the President of the United States, right? They're not supposed to work in opposition to the President.
No.
Correct?
See, that's the problem.
Would Obama have put up with that?
They work for the United States. They work for the United States of America, not the president and his political motives. And hold on a minute, Corey. Hold on, Corey. The president could have appointed somebody through the Senate to deal with this, or appointed somebody through regular channels, got them security clearance, but that's not what he did. What he did was send his political hack attorneys over to the Ukraine to influence policy. This is ridiculous. It's criminal, and he's going to be impeached and removed by March 15th.
Okay, Chirs Hahn, you get very upset on Fridays. I think you get tired at the end of the week, so that's why you're upset.
I'm not upset. I'm happy. The Yankees won. All is good in the world.
He's very upset. We got to get to George Papadopoulos, who is completely run over by the deep state. We're going to talk to him in a second. But I would say the career civil servants are there to carry out the agenda of the duly elected President of the United States and abide by the law. Absolutely. But elections have consequences. You're not there as part of a permanent opposition group. That's not how our country works. So if the Democrats want to go down this road, it's going to be a very ugly road in other administrations.
Well,
and I don't think they want that. I don't think they want that.
Hey,
guys, we got to go.
Was using his office to abuse power to
All right, got to go.